Am I live? Is this working? Oh my goodness. Hi everyone. Hopefully this is working. I haven't done this before. If you are here, let me know. Hey, we've got viewers dropped in. Here we go. Hi everyone, how are you? This is my first live workshop ever, which is really, really exciting. Oh my goodness. Fabulous. Hi. Oh, this is great. Okay. So we are just going to give everyone a little chance to catch up and make sure you're dropping in and everything. So let me know where you're coming from in the world, if you're watching, where you're watching from. And I want to know your favourite marine creature. And as we go along, I'll see if I can drop that into the conversation. No promises, but let's have a look and see what everyone's favourite creature is. And then we're going to kick off in just a couple of minutes, just give everyone a chance to join the live stream, which is really cool. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to show you what we are doing, the artiness, the amazingness. It's going to be lots of me talking. Great jacket, thank you, it's new. And I've got lots of amazing badges. Oh, Ayoka, sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Her favourite, or their favourite animal is a seahorse. That's really cool. I haven't seen one of them yet. That is on my list. I know they find them in the Thames, which isn't too far from where I grew up, so that's exciting. Sarah's from LA and San Antonio. Zeffie, that's cool. Hi, Elizabeth. The other Elizabeth has joined too. Someone from Vancouver, my goodness. Hard to pick a favourite one. I totally agree, Rose. Cuttlefish from Sugata. Yes, cuttlefish are amazing. I'm really looking out. I really, really want to see it this year. I managed to see a octopus last year on this channel, and I'm looking for a cuttlefish. I'll explain more about who I am and what I do in just a few minutes, if none of this is making sense, me talking about my channel. But hopefully you know that I'm a YouTube marine biology person because you're on my YouTube channel joining me for this, which is so cool. Someone else from Seattle, Nudibranchs, of course, they are wondrous. In fact, my entire t-shirt is Nudibranchs, so on the same wavelength there. Sacramento, this is awesome. This is so cool. Okay, I reckon that is long enough for everyone to have dropped in for a bit, but it doesn't matter if you're dropping a bit late or watching not live. This is going to be great either way. So welcome to this scientific sketchbook Sealife session. This is part of International Nature Journaling Week, which is absolutely amazing, absolutely fantastic, and you can go check out everything on the website. Most likely you already know about it because you're here, but if you haven't, then there's been 2 live workshops every single day, and you can go back and check them out at a later date. So there's plenty more of this type of stuff on the internet for this week, which is really great. And my name is Elizabeth. I am a marine biologist and PhD student at the University of Dundee. So I am based in Scotland, so different from America and not too far from South Devon, where some other people are. And yeah, so I have a YouTube channel where I do all marine arty scientific art things. And I got asked to do this because I've been on Bethany's podcast before and did something for Nature Journaling Week last year, and I like to bring a weird, fun, quirky this side to nature journaling, and this might be quite a chaotic session. We'll see how it goes. I've got some ambitious things planned, which is really exciting. And before we get into it, I wanted to share basically a bit more about what I do with my channel, because that will help put into context a lot of what we're doing here. So I'm going to play a trailer kind of for this channel to show you what I get up to, and then we will get into the workshop. So I will just get that up now.
So much life lives just out of our reach below the surface of the sea. That is, until the tide goes out, revealing vast intertidal beaches where you can witness the most wonderful species and their lives for a few hours a day with just a pair of wellies. My name's Elizabeth, I'm a marine biologist, and I'm making it my mission to share the weirdest and most wonderful sea creatures you can see for free in the UK. with over 175 videos on my channel already, bringing under the sea to your sofa every single week. Whether we're out exploring in the rain, getting hands-on with the most cool creatures around, or drawing scientific art highlighting the natural beauty of our species and coastal ecosystems, with tutorials in painting, animation, and more. One thing's for sure, it's going to be fun, silly, educational, and definitely entertaining. So dive in and subscribe so you can join me on ocean adventures and we can learn just how amazing sea life is together and just how important it is to protect.
Fabulous. So hopefully you liked that, and that kind of gives you an idea of what my channel does. So if you do want to support me, then hitting the subscribe button is a great way to do that, but mainly because it helps you learn more about the ocean, because that is what I'm trying to do. So today's art workshop is going to be, I don't know, slightly different. I don't know, art workshops could be whatever they want to be. But what you will need is whatever you usually nature journal for. And you don't have to nature journal during this. It's not one of those sessions where we're going to be doing it kind of as we go along, because some of the stuff that I'm doing takes a bit of time and a bit of fiddliness and you need lots of random things. But we are going on a scientific adventure. So I want this session to feel like you're going through this scientific discovery, and we're going, you know, digitally rock pooling and doing lots of these different things, but through our nature journals instead. So it'd be fantastic if, and minorly, like a minor dream of mine, to have someone draw as I talk, which just sounds amazing, but maybe I'm pitching to the right audience here, to kind of nature journal as you would normally nature journal. And we're going to learn some stuff today, and whatever format you want to put that in, you can do it, or if you just want to sit back and listen, that's fine too. But if you do anything, I would absolutely love to see it. So this is my Twitter and Instagram. How fancy is that? Can we just take a moment? So fancy. I feel so fancy. Maybe I just blew the fanciness by bringing it up, but that's not the kind of person I am. So Twitter and Instagram, I would be amazing if you could tag me and show me, because I would love to see. So as you saw from the trailer of my video, so much I could have spoken about, so much nature, so much diversity, so many species. And when I was thinking about the idea of this, the theme of this day is I wonder, and that is the very crux of science, is I wonder. My day starts with I wonder. It ends with I wonder, and it will never stop you having to use the words I wonder. And so when I thought about this, my mind just went off in this wild trail. And actually, I wandered down this very specific route, which we're going to be following today. But I think it perfectly shows how creativity and science can mix together, and how we can use nature journaling in a bizarre way to try and do that. So, yeah, so that is what we are going to try and do today. So to start this, we're going to go rock pooling, and in true nature journal fashion, we're going to go rock pooling in a nature journal. This is actually the page I made for Nature Journaling Week 2020, and you can check, I've got that video is on my channel, so you can go back and search for that. But we are going to delve into that world, just set it up briefly to introduce what we are doing this year. Now, if this works in the fancy settings. Fabulous. So this is the rock pooling and nature journal world. Ooh. There might be a bit of terrible singing in this. I can't stop it. 'Tis myself. So this is some of the wonderful things you can expect to see under rock pools. And part of what I like to do in nature journals is make it interactive, because rock pooling is such an interactive journey. You are flipping over rocks, you're touching things, you're talking about texture, and all of that we're going to discuss today. So in this, if you flip over and turn over the rock, you get to see some lovely species living under it, and these edible crabs which love to live under rocks. So having a search around here today, I think for what we're going to speak about today, we'll look under this rock. I wonder what's under here. So we're going to be looking at what these things are. And there you go, this thing. Does that make it any clearer? Probably not. We're going to be talking about some weird and bizarre things today. And they are, I will just swap back. They are sea squirts. Yes, I'm not expecting the penny to drop or there to be any more clarity to that. Sea squirts are weird, and the more we go on, the weirder it's going to get. So buckle up, people. It's going to be good. So I'm going to show you now what some sea squirts are. I'm going to show some footage and I'm going to have a chat about it so you can see them up in real life. And also thank you for the lovely comments that are coming through. It's really nice to see. Oh, I should say, I forgot to mention, I'm doing a Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, either save it till then or chuck them in as we go, and I can always scroll back. So if you have any itching, burning questions that don't get answered during the course of this, let me know and we can have a chat at the end. And stick around for that too. Okie dokie. So this is a sea squirt. There are lots of different types of sea squirt, I suppose, but this is the very small, average looking. This is actually a space hopper sea squirt because they look like the bouncy hoppers. This is a baked bean sea squirt because it looks like a baked bean. I mean, I think that's really cute. And they can be varying sizes. These in particular are quite small. They like to live under rocks, and you've probably seen them in the area but overlooked them. This is a different species, an invasive species in the UK called Chlorella, and we find that, unfortunately, on the rocky shores now. This is a colonial sea squirt. So that is actually a sea squirt living all together to form one kind of big colonial animal. We're not going to talk about them very much today. It's just going to confuse what we're getting into. But I think this one is particularly gorgeous, so had to include it. Yeah, and it's also amazing that they come in all these weird shapes and sizes. This is Seona intestinalis, and this is beautiful. I think it's very delicate and really cool. Yeah, the names are funny. They are great. But this is my favourite sea squirt. And can anyone, very quickly, I'll give you 10 seconds to guess the name. What do these guys look like? Bearing in mind the names so far have been very literal. So this is the light bulb sea squirt, which is just amazing. I think it's fantastic. And sea squirts are really awesome because although they're soft, they can actually form quite dense habitats and environments, and they can all clump together, so you can kind of see all of this life living in and on it and around it, and they can be quite big, and it's really interesting. They can go from, you know, these delicate little things to something that, you know, this little shrimp is feeding off of the things that are living on it, which I think is really awesome. So that is what sea squirts are, or look like, I should say. And I suppose we should get on to why they're called sea squirts. And I love that people are commenting on the names because I think that's a great thing. But sometimes in marine naming, very confusing. Sea squirts, very literal, very simple and very easy. And we're going to get to the first page of the nature journaling that I've done for this session today and demonstrating exactly why sea squirts are called sea squirts. You can take a guess. You might be correct. You probably will be. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. I've got to get the right page, but I don't spoil later on. Ta-da! So, you can kind of, let me angle it a bit. There's a bit of a pop-up there. Sea squirts are called sea squirts because they, when pressed, they like to squirt water at you. That's the simple fact of it. I would say 99.9% of the time it hits you in the eye or the face. That's sod's law, that's fate, that's just typical. That, or they've got very good aim. But I really liked making this nature journal page, and I love the idea of, I don't know, the interactive versions of a nature journal, especially because in rock pooling sometimes you can't nature journal on the rocky shore. You can, but you have to do it very quickly. So when you've got a bit more time, I like to try and make up for the fact that I couldn't paint this, sitting on a rocky shore, but I could paint it at home by adding interactive features. And this is the silhouette of my hand, but kind of looks like a giant, I don't know, chicken. Put an eye here. But because it's this blank patch on the page, you're desperate to fill it up for you to do this and it not to look like a weird white chicken. And in doing so, it's looking like we're pressing and it's coming out. So for anyone interested, I'm going to play the video now of me making this page, and we're going to talk through the art of it. But we're going to talk about why this is such an important thing of I Wonder as we go along. Just find the right one. Yes, so I love to use pop-ups. So for anyone that likes to use pop-ups or looking to do that, this video should hopefully provide a bit of extra clarity. So I start off with just by making a very rough pop-up. I'm honest, there's probably angles and things that are used to do pop-ups properly, but I don't know any of them. I just kind of wing it. What I do know is that you need something to sit in the middle of the page, and you need like 2 angles, kind of like, that V shape in the middle to get a bit of support. And then you kind of just bend and faff around and give it a couple of whirls to try and do it. But I would recommend checking the pop-up works first before putting all that time onto a page, because you don't want to spend all that time painting this lovely painting to then ruin it. And I want to kind of talk about, let me know what your nature journaling area is. I mean, everyone can nature journal and do loads of stuff. I am particularly obsessed with the rocky shore. And I realised when I was drawing this, I didn't look at any reference photos, and it's the first time I think I've ever done that. However, I have been rock pooling hundreds of times, and I just kind of realised that it's now in my memory. And that was a really special moment for me to realise that actually I'd been rock pooling so many times that I could just envision in my head exactly what the underside of a rock looks like. Has anyone out there achieved a regular patch all the time that you now don't need to go and look at a draw? It just pops in your head. Is anyone else like that? I think it was, I don't know, it was a special art moment for me. Thank you for all the lovely comments. It's really cool. So I drew out the outline, and then I cut out the proper cutout. As I'm doing this, you'll see I kind of cut it down a bit more. It kind of would stick out the top. Something to be aware of when you're doing pop-ups. And then painted it off of the pop-up just to see how it would go. If I'm honest, I think I painted too far down with the blue. So for future reference, if you're going to recreate this, don't paint all the way down. A bit too late. But then I just used some that stick glue to stick it down, and kind of messed around with where it was. I think I've just had a question about, do the pop-ups need to be in the centre of the page? I've always done them in the centre of the page for them to pop up. I tend to use things like flaps later on, flaps like I did before if they're off. I think it's the tightness of that paper as you open it up that makes it pop up. There may be other ways to do it, and it's something that I want to look into. It's a bit more fancy and technical, but I'll try and do that. This notebook is a Moleskine. It's not the watercolour one, it's like the heavy paper one, which is good for painting on. You can still do it, but you can only really get like one section of it. So I like to get the paint down first and then kind of leave below. And then I'm obsessed with outlining things in black. Absolutely obsessed. We'll see this as I go along. And so this was a very satisfying moment. Even though the outline came up with a giant chicken. Turkey thing. I don't know. The music. I'm sorry. I forgot I had that on there. There we go. Sorry about that, everyone. I'll make sure the music and the future ones is lower. And so just making sure, just let me know if that is lower actually, just to make sure that it's worked. There are tons of things living on the underside of rocks. These are sponges, brittle stars, amphipods, there's a starfish, the purple is a crustose coralline algae. All of these things you can find on my YouTube channel in plenty. That they are found all the time, and I could make endless videos just what lists. Oh great, Karen, thanks, I'm glad that's better. Endless videos about what lives on the bottom of rocks, and I just love it so much. But if you want to find a sea squirt, that is where you find it. So this is just basically the process I use to make it. I'm terrible at talking while I do art, so I decided to pre-record it. I don't have that skill yet, though I can talk for days any other time. Yeah, so we're getting to the end of just making this pop-up page. I hope I hope you like it and it's been useful, and I really enjoyed making this one. It's very addictive covering up that white patch. Okay, and so we have this sea squirt that squirts us in the face. Let me know in the future. Tweet me if it happens to you. It will do. If you're rockpooling and you touch one, I guarantee you it will. And so we've got this, and the question is, I wonder, well, okay, we could just leave it at that. We could be like, okay, this weird sea creature that looks like a blob squirts us in the face. Fine. But we're not going to do that. This is I wonder. We're carrying on. I wonder why. There's a bit of light that I'm avoiding. So what we're going to do next is something I've never tried before, and I've set up, and hopefully it's going to work. Now, in science, you know, you're always asking the next question, and so when something does something like squirt water, and that, I mean, it doesn't happen. You don't touch everything on the rocky shore and it squirts water in your face. Why is that? The next kind of stage is dissection, looking at the anatomy of the creature. What is it specifically about that goes into doing that? So for today's thing, which we're going to try, we are going to dissect a nature journal sea squirt that I've made, make notes, notice its taxonomy, and continue this conversation of I wonder. And we're only at very early stage. This is going to carry on going. I'm leaving you in suspense about where this is ending. It's going to be exciting. So I'm going to flip over to that now, and we can get on with our dissection. Fabulous. So I'm flipping over the page. Okay, this grey thing is a sea squirt. Like, that's what a sea squirt looks like. I can't make it any more exciting than that. Some of them look, this is the general sea squirtness. Now, when I do going rockpooling, a lot of it is very texture based. You're touching things, and honestly, something like touching the difference between like a different species, it will tell you the different groups of species. So if it's soft or squidgy or hard. So actually texture and touching things is really important. So I kind of collect things as I go. Like this is tracing paper, which is what I used for this. But things like grey paper, I wouldn't say go out and buy plastic, but let's be honest, lots of plastic comes to our house, and instead of wasting it, you can save things like this. And this actually feels very much like a different type of sea squirt. This will feel more like the light bulb ones. Even things like felt that you can use. I haven't used this as an example today, but there's something called a leathery sea squirt. And I think if you painted this, then you would get the right texture for this leathery sea squirt. You could probably also use leather, hence the thing, but I don't have any of that hand. So for this, if you were to feel it right now, it feels like this sea squirt. And actually the touch is an identification feature for this type of sea squirt, and which I'm going to call a generic sea squirt. It is based off of this sea squirt, but just in case, I'm just going to leave it normal. So when we dissect things, it is well, I mean, it is Minorly destructive, given the fact that we are dissecting them. Plain and simple. So I'm going to try and do this and not destroy the artwork that I've done on the inside. But let's be honest, I don't know. But this is what normal life would be like. And we're going to make some, nice notes as we go. We've got notebook inception here. And oh, there's something else I need to say. I'm jumping ahead of myself. Oof. Okay, you can't really see on here, but there are 2 siphons on this. There are 2 holes. So before we get into the dissection, you've got to notice everything going on. And if you go back and we watch that video, which I'll show you another couple of C-squirts videos as we go, notice that all C-squirts always have 2 siphons, which are 2 holes in their surface. The other ones that look like a baked bean had 2 at the top. This one has 1 at the top and 1 at the side. So it's just something to notice before we destroy it or cut it open, because this will change how it looks on the outside. And yes, I am staying very sciencey despite the fact that I know this is tracing paper. I would, if I was I would try and cut like this if I was doing it with a knife, and you might see a bit of footage of that later. But just for easy's sake, I'm trying not to destroy and cut what I did before. We're just going to go from the bottom. And I'm noticing as I'm cutting this that this is quite a thick layer of the outside, and we're going to label that as we go. Oh, look, it's kind of all come off. Oh, look. And we'll peel back the layer of the skin, trying not to destroy where the siphons are, because that might be of use to us, and we can look at the anatomy. Oh, look at that. That is so much nicer and neater than it would normally be. So the first thing to note when we're doing this is that this stuff was quite thick, and actually a C-squirt is encased in a tube, well, not tube, like a sac, called a tunic. So I'm just going to draw a little label and write tunic down. The other name for a C-squirt is tunicata, which is kind of like the Latin name for it. So I'm going to put that in there. And just for future, if you want to know, if you're writing anything in Latin, usually it's in italics, but if you're handwriting it, you can't italicize it. So you underline it. You don't have to do that. It's just something if you want to know for future. I don't know what the quality is like if you can actually read what I'm writing here, but I will photograph whatever I take here and put it on my Instagram after this. So if you're struggling to read what I'm writing, it'll all be there for you afterwards. But, if you're drawing this, then you can follow along as I say. So you've got the tunic and that's come off. Now, the next thing that is blaringly obvious is this thing here. Now, this is attached, kind of, to this siphon here. So I'm going to write down here, attached, so that I can remember, because as we dissect it, we might be moving things around. And yeah, someone just said, I love this interactive children's book. I'm obsessed. I'm absolutely obsessed with those type of children's books as a kid. This is exactly where it's coming from. In fact, I'm still obsessed now. I'm literally attached to it. And someone says, are they firmly attached to the ground? Yeah, I should have put that in there. So this particular one would be, you can either have it attached here, or the whole of the back would be attached. So if you imagine that that's not the rock, it would be stuck to the rock, but the top isn't stuck and the siphons aren't stuck. And so we've got to this thing here, and this is well, it's called a pharyngeal basket, which is a very fancy word for, basically, it's lungs. And you can tell if we lift this up slightly, and you can kind of have a look. It's very thin and delicate, but it's also got all these holes in. And things like gills, if you've ever seen a fish gill, it looks like fish gills are very much like this. Like rows and rows of this. And that's because the whole point of lungs, and the same with our lungs, and fish gills and things like this, is to get as much surface area for oxygen coming past to hit this surface and come into it. If it was just a line, there'd be a lot less things for this to hit, only this little amount of line compared to this. So anything that's frilly and fluffy and things like that are either going to be breathing things or potentially something like the intestine. But in this case, it is a way, well, yeah, a way for kind of gill slits and kind of to get oxygen and things like that. I'm suddenly second guessing myself here. Or feeding. I think this is just breathing. And so this is then attached to a second layer, which we can kind of lift up and see. And this is a whole nother section all connected to itself. But if we follow it round and down and up, it's attached to the second siphon. So that's interesting. So again, we're going to write attached, and it's attached here and attached here, but there is this kind of line separating these two areas, one from the top and one from the bottom. And that is, well, these are just called two separate cavities. And so this is slightly separate to this. So we're going to write cavities. Just as a note, it might not be particularly important later on, but as we go, this is kind of what we do in science. We make sure that we're writing stuff down. So this, if we look up what this is, we actually have, what do we have? We have the intestines here. So I'm going to write intestines. And you know, this is the actual thing. So maybe just writing intestines is difficult. So we've got a note page. Maybe we'll just draw again exactly what we're looking at so that I can label it easier. Very roughly. So here we have the intestines, followed by the stomach, followed by, oh no, I've got that wrong. Excuse me, this is flipped round. Ignore this. That's the thing leading to the stomach. Is it another? I'm reading off something that's flipped around, so we're going well. Okay, ignore that. Right, that's the stomach. This is the intestines, and then it goes up to the top, which is the the anus. So all of these things, and I don't know. Maybe chuck in the comments right now, and I'll see if anyone gets it. You don't have to get it straight away. You've got a couple of minutes. But does anyone kind of recognise anything in particular about the order that we found this in? Is there anything that sparks? And you don't have to be a scientist. This is not, don't feel bad if you don't get this. This is what I'm here to show you. But just in case anyone does spot it, just have a guess. If not, no worries. So we go up, and this goes out of the second siphon. But we've still got another layer to look at really quickly. And under here, and kind of attached to this, we have a heart, which is right here. And we have gonads, which is kind of the reproductive part of this, which is really interesting. So I'm just going to have a quick look at the comments, just in case anyone's come up with anything, but also because there's loads of chat going on here. I can't wait to scroll back and look at it properly. I love that this is making everyone feel creative. I'm so pleased. This is exactly what I wanted it to do, and I'm really pleased that you all like it. Oh, this is awesome. So now the heart is super cute. The heart is super cute. If a heart looks like a heart kind of on a human, most of the time it does look quite sweet because it's a smaller version of it. And then, so what is that, one pencil or two? Do you mean what type? I don't actually know what type of pencil this is. This is just a random pencil. I'm terrible with that, sorry. So if we're looking at this, talking about the fact that that heart was cute and kind of similar, I suppose, what you could notice, and I wonder, is this, this is very similar to humans. We've got somewhere one hole at the top, which would be, say, our mouths, which and then breathing, and then a stomach, and then an intestine, and then the outside, and another hole, which is a very nice way of saying, other things are there. And sorry, just one. Yes, so actually you could say, I wonder, how, even though this is a blob, how closely related to this is that to humans? I mean, it might seem like a big stretch, but in science, the idea of science is that things are really, really weird, and you have to keep asking the questions, and you should never ever feel weird about asking questions. And even with nature journaling, you know, question it all the time, because really it's the questioning that comes up with awesome things. And that's part of the reason I kind of picked this example. So we are going to swap back for 2 seconds to myself. Hey, and someone asked a question about what type of paper to use for the pop-up. I used on that one in particular like a premium white paper, so a thicker normal printer paper. I would recommend using that, because if you use too many bits of card and stuff, the nature journal gets quite thick and quite bulky, and actually doesn't pop the same way, but too flimsy, it will just kind of disintegrate. So that's the best type of paper for that. Oh, someone do dissecting flowering parts. That would be fun. That would be a great idea for this. So that answers the question of, you know, I wonder, but where do we go from this? We're wondering, is this thing that looks like a blob, squirts me when I'm at the sea, like really weird. Actually, I noticed something similar to what we experience as humans. Is that the case? And how on earth would we tell that? That's a really difficult thing to tell. But with a bit of marine knowledge, there's something that we're missing. And that comes down from something that I'm really excited to kind of talk to you about, because it's what my research is actually on. And so I'm just going to flip over real quick to this other nature journaling page. Oh no, I'm skipping ahead. I'm terrible. Right, I'm going to show you something. Oh, I'm skipping ahead. Right, let me have a drink of water and let me calm down. I'm so sorry. I've got bullet points here, but I'm apparently not looking at them. So what I need to say now is slight pre-warning with this. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, and then we're talking about dissections, you need to look at your local, national things. You can't take certain species from certain places. You should never take stuff without it being kind of for education purposes, and even then you need to be really careful, and scientists go through things like ethics, and a lot of the time things like marine invertebrates aren't covered, but you need to check where you are. You need to check it's not a reservation, somewhere protected. And what you're about to see is come from my own dissertation, and so it's been, you know, it's checked, it's from somewhere I was allowed to take that thing. I just want to put that out there for anyone, just in case, just to be on the cautious side, because we're here to observe and protect science, and are just making sure that, you know, you're using it in the right way. But that being said, the importance of science and art is really important at this very pinnacle stage, because what I have just shown to you is very neat. It's, oh yeah, that makes total sense. This looks like this. This looks like a gut. This is a sea squirt. A lot of the time that is not the case whatsoever. It looks nothing like that. And the reason art is so fantastic is, actually, I'll show you this in a minute, is it combines our scientific knowledge and puts it into a way that is actually genuinely useful. So right now, I'm going to show you an actual dissection of a sea squirt. It's not the best. I was using it for something else. I was too busy making sure I was doing it for the purpose I needed it for. But I thought I'd video it for this as well, because it was doubly useful. I am using a knife in it and some tweezers. There's nothing like blood in it. There's no blood in a sea squirt. It's just, it might be a bit wibbly, but if that's not your cup of tea, I'm going to give you a minute, well, not 30 seconds or so, while I just ramble on quick, to go get a cup of tea, come back in about 2-3 minutes time. Just so if this is not what you want to look at, then don't look at it. But to be honest, it is just like, it just looks a bit mucky, really, a bit jelly-like. There's no real massively gory. Okay, I am now putting on the video, so look away, anyone that doesn't want to see a dissection of a sea squirt. So we're dissecting 2 sea squirts here. This is the first one, and just to let you know, obviously the species are not alive when I'm dissecting them, the individuals. So just to let you know that, just in case. So it's very fiddly. Sea squirts aren't that big, and actually some of them you can ID from the surface, the shape, the colour, where the siphons are located. Sometimes they're see-through so you can see the guts, but sometimes they're not see-through, and actually you need to dissect them to make sure you're getting the right identification. These have also been in ethanol, so I'm pulling out this thing. It will go wee in a minute, it will fly off because ethanol and water don't mix, so it like freaks out, or don't mix, or whatever it is, again, off it goes. But as you can see, you have that tunic, but there's not that like second cavity with this species. There's another whole kind of thing that it's kept in. This is kind of a bigger individual of that, and you can see I'm pulling back that tunic as we would have done on the dissection now, and you can see that that breathing kind of pharyngeal sac thing that's there, and the guts on the inside. But let's be honest, it's weird, isn't it? That's the siphon there, one of them, siphon on the other side. It's not the same. Like that looks completely different to what I just drew. And that's not because we drew it wrong. It's because a drawing like that actually helps you to identify stuff, and you can kind of work it out from what you're looking at. But if you were to draw what you were looking at the start, it would be so weird because each individual is usually like a little bit different. So I just thought that was potentially of interest to show you the reality and the importance of, you know, nature journaling and all of those things. Yeah, they are substantial. They are, some of them, the leathery sea squirts and things like that, are really thick, and they're, you know, things can live on them. It's quite interesting to see. Let's get rid of that. So back to kind of the importance of art. This is the book that we use to identify a lot of the stuff in the UK, and it is not filled with pictures. It is filled with beautiful illustrations. I don't know, I haven't really got sea squirts up, but you'll see they're full of these different illustrations, and that's because we need illustrations and observations and things like that to identify them in science. And it's a really creative aspect. I love that part of my job to identify things is to look at art all day sometimes, scientific art, but it's amazing. So I just thought I'd highlight that in, like, you know, nature journaling and scientific art and all those type of things are really genuinely important and something that is used every day. And it's people with the like mind of nature journalists that go out and observe and notice all these things that can be really handy, because they can notice something on a species that's different that, you know, we can help get included in all of these illustrations and things. So what was it about? Right, now back to talking about what I do for my research, and we are missing a stage. If we look at this sea squirt, we're wondering if it's part of how closely related to humans. Weird question to ask, but we're wondering. I wonder. And we're going to have a look at this illustration really quick. Okay, so this is a very simplified rocky shore. I'm not particularly amazed by this form of thing. I've just realised I've forgotten what I need for this. Give me 1 second. That's so typical. We'll go with silver. Okay. What was the name of the book used to identify organisms? It is The Handbook of Marine Fauna in Northwest Europe by Peter Hayward and John Ryland. I'll add it. It's on one of my videos of how to identify things, so if you can go check that out. So this is a rocky shore, very simplified, and the sea. What I was going for in this is small species, big shore, even bigger ocean. Now, a sea squirt doesn't move. That's one of the things that you would notice straight away. And there are lots of species. In fact, every type of thing. Anemones, seaweeds, these are the weird sea squirts, coralline algae, all of these different types of things, barnacles, they don't move. So how on earth do they reproduce? And it's very similar to things like pollen. They have to have a mobile life stage. Otherwise, this anemone is only ever going to be able to have children. Well, might not even be able to have children because it won't be next to things. And so what you do is I've just had to remove the skin, put it back in there. Okay. So what you'll actually see if you look in the water column is you will see literally, I mean, I think it's something ridiculous. Like it would be like a billion, like billions in like a drop of water or something. I really need to look up that fact. But while I talk to you, I'm just going to do this. You will find absolutely tons of teeny weeny little tiny whiny spores. And what this is the creatures will spawn reproductive cells into the water column, and they'll mix here, or they'll find their way to another creature and get fertilized. But most of the time they get fertilized in the water because they kind of bash into each other, and then they will form a little tiny spore, and that spore will swim through the water and go find a new place to settle. Now, the reason I like talking about this so much is that actually my PhD is based on trying to stop the spawns of invasive species, which are species that can cause ecological or economic harm to species. And they live on the bottom of ships, and they'll come over on the bottom of ships, spawn, and they can spawn into a new country. And because that species isn't used to this ecosystem, sometimes they can dominate it and affect it. So actually, I'm trying to come up with a surface, I'm just going to carry on doing this, that stops this, this happening. And I just want to come back to me quickly because I want to talk about this in person. Now, when I say I'm coming up with a surface for this, and I think I've got a video on what I do for research, I just want to put out there how amazing marine life is. Now, if you're wondering, how can you come up with a surface to stop this happening? Well, because the teeny weeny little tiny baby microscopic thing actually has the ability to settle or pick where it settles. It has the ability to look at physical properties like roughness and chemistry and you know, what's it next to, what's it near, do I like being here? And that species can go along and actually like choose where it lives. It varies depending on species to species, and depends how much depending on all these things. And sometimes it hasn't got a choice, it's really competitive in the ocean, it just lives where it has to live. But I think that's amazing. I think that is absolutely incredible that all these species have this ability in this mobile life stage to do this, which is why it's really important to consider this mobile life stage. And what we're going to do now, when we jump back to this. So I don't know if you've noticed, but there is something different in the sea. Oh, look, we could take a water sample. Oh, I wonder what is in this water sample. Now we're going to take this water sample and we are going to chuck it into a microscope. This particular microscope is in the back of my nature journal. Ta-da! Before we go any further, I want to introduce you to Derek, the dissection microscope. And I saved this for when you're being here, but what I was going for and really failed at was kind of like a caricature microscope. You know, I wanted it to look like a Pixar character if it was a microscope, like Cars, but a microscope. It failed miserably. But you know what always fixes anything? Googly eyes. I'm going to put some googly eyes on there while we do that. Also, points to you if you noticed Bob the boom arm. I tried to come up with a filming setup where the boom arm wasn't in my shot, but I couldn't, so I made him Bob the boom arm. So next time it's talking to me, pay attention to the lovely smiley boom arm that's next to me. There we go. Perfect. It's also sciencey because that's the bit you look down in a microscope. So welcome, Derek. So we're going to take our water sample, and for the sake of this, we're flipping it over. What I've done, if you're interested, is I've glued this page together so you can kind of slot it in and it won't move too much. Sally noticed the boom arm. Boom arm, yep. Good. I didn't know whether to bring it up or just leave it. Right, now we're going to get sciencey. Oh, I do have a video of how I made that C-square. If anyone wants to see that closest to the end of the video, let me know. You know the one we dissected? I do have a video of that, so chuck it in the comments if you fancy watching me make it. If not, I might just chuck it at the end anyway. So we've got our water sample. And this dissection microscope, or really for this level, we'd probably not need a dissection microscope. We need a bigger optical microscope, but we're ignoring that because I want to call him Derek. And what we're going to look at is the spawn of a sea squirt. So it has this kind of shape. Ooh, I've gone a bit, which is very tadpole shaped, and this is actually described as a tadpole. And I'm just going to draw some little bits in. It has lots of different things. So a lot of the time they undergo metamorphosis. When they land on something, they'll metamorphose. And in fact, sea squirts, it's like within the space of a day, it will turn into like a baby mini sea squirt. But a lot of the time it comes with some of the stuff it needs, but not all of the stuff. And in this stage, it will lose and gain things once it's settled. So this is I don't know what this is. There's a little heart in here. There's a little so anyway, okay, we're just doing all this. There's lots of things in here which looks a bit like this that are all fancy terms that, for the sake of this demonstration, I don't really care about. This is the stomach. What we do care about is this discovery, and pay attention now because this is pretty amazing. And it blew my mind when I learned this. So I don't know, maybe I'll move it a bit closer. So this here, this little thing that looks like cells with little dots, is called a notochord. And the thing under it is a nerve. Now this is special because a notochord, which I'm going to draw it bigger just for the sake of this, because looking at it now, I'll rub this out later. Right. Looks a bit like this and has a thing. Can anyone guess what they think that looks like? Oh, Karen said if all teachers made science this fun, so many more kids would be interested in school. That is a very lovely comment. Thank you so much. That is, wow, that is a compliment. Eggs, Karen guesses. Yeah, I can kind of see it probably looks more like eggs. That's not what I'm going for. Right, I'm going to move on because I think my drawing is worse than my explanation. This is actually, yes, Karina, yes, and Valerie, a spinal cord. So a notochord is a very early spine, which I think is absolutely fascinating. And you need to see how happy I am. So let's come back to my face. And Bob the Boom Arm. Bob the Boom Arm is, of course, very happy about this discovery. So in this life stage is the original, well, is a notochord. It loses this. When it lands and metamorphosizes like a caterpillar into a butterfly kind of thing, it loses this notochord. However, it's there, and it's not there in a lot of the species. And actually, this means that it is a very early vertebrate. And what I'm going to draw this really quickly. What I would love to do is to spend ages and draw this lovely tree and do all these things. And if that's something you're interested in, I will most likely do that potentially in like another video on the channel. But to make it what I want to do in my head would take hours. So we're going to just do a very crude, rudimentary drawing here. Would it be best to do it in pen or pencil? Can everyone see the pencil okay? Is that all right? Is that showing up, or would you prefer me to use black pen? What is the function of the notochord? I'm not entirely sure. I think it's something that popped up that some species used and some species didn't. The sea squirt obviously didn't need to use it any further, but it was something that came in just before, and actually from that point onwards, we vertebrates, chordates, all decided that would actually be useful and carried it on, whereas sea squirt's like, nah, we're all right. We don't need a backbone. Black would be better. Right, okay. No problem. I'll just scribble in my nature journal. Not a problem. Right, we are gonna Swap brand. Also, for anyone, I had this comment on Instagram yesterday. For anyone looking at, like, you know, the fear of nature journaling, I actually started this nature journaling out of order. So there's like mixed pages and it's all like really random stuff in it. Like, it's not in order and doesn't look good. So it completely got rid of the fear of scribbling in it, because it already looks bizarre and you're not watching yourself get better or worse. You're just randomly putting stuff in. So for the sake of this, happy to draw in it. So this is an evolutionary tree. This little line here, this little human-y thing, not human thing, it's a line, is we're going to label him the individual. No one knows what it is. This is the first species to ever live, ever. Like, popped out of nowhere, or whatever happened, I don't know. So that's the first species to ever live. Very soon after this, we have all the way up here, which is still alive, we get to sponges. So we get to Mr. SpongeBob. Let's put a quick square pants in. That's terrible, but I feel better knowing that he is there. Now, for interest, for quickness sake, it's difficult to describe. It's a big concept, but this individual happens every time something reproduces. There's a chance of mutation. Something in here happened and sponges branched off, but decided that sponges didn't need to change anymore. They've stayed sponges from when they became a sponge to now. They're one of the oldest species and they're still here. Something else happened with this bit where something decided, I don't quite want to be a sponge, maybe we should do something else. So the next thing to be kind of invented was actually things like jellyfish. So they're still up here, jellyfish. The next thing, and this is where we kind of come along, is we branch off here, but instead of just going to us, we get us, chordates come off here, and we get echinoderms and this other thing. Now, I'm not going to fill the rest of it in, but the rest of this, all the way along, is we get to insects over here. Things like insects, that's like the newest thing to come about. They're here. And along here is, you know, different stuff. But everything except for this one line, chordates, are invertebrates. Nothing else except for anything past this point here has a backbone. Everything else. Now, if you measure kind of the distance of the line, you work out how closely related you are. So we're least related to insects, kind of more related to sponges, but not really, because we go all the way down here. But we are more closely related to whatever it was. Oh no, Karen, it's having an earthquake in Santiago. I hope you're okay. Oh my goodness. Sending love. That doesn't happen in Scotland. Stay safe. The very, very little. Okay, that's better. I'm worried about you there, Karen. Then again, I think it was big, you wouldn't be typing, so that was my mistake. So we get to the chordates, but it's not just us in there. We get to a very tiny little diagram. And basically, we branch off from like this, does this. So this here are things with a backbone. So everything else, like, I don't know, tigers, all those things. And this is sea squirts. So they get just about in there. They just about get to having a backbone, then they decide to lose it and they disappear off. And this, everything here, except for a few bizarre things that kind of like fishes that are halfway in between and that, and other things, we get to us, which is up here. So I know that was a scribbled random bit of science interest, but I will say I have so many ideas to draw. Like, you could draw this lovely forest with a tree and like lots of branches, and you could have little folding flaps that go over each other, and you know, you could fold them out like the Marauders map. Is basically what I'm thinking I'm going to do. So stay tuned to that, because I think now drawing that has really got the itch to to go and draw something nicer. But the idea, and I think is fantastic, is we started with the digital, with a nice rock pooling session. We noticed a sea squirt. We went, I wonder what this is or why it's named that. After why it's named that, we wondered, well, why does it squirt you? Because it's called sea squirts and so obvious. Then we go down to like, then we realise the anatomy and we notice something else weirder, and then we move forward to something else, and we realise that actually this tiny little blob on the rocky shore that we had no real, it's a blob. It's literally a blob. Look at it from the outside. It is a blob. And I've realised I've forgotten something else. And I'm going to show you some extra footage. I've got loads of videos stocked up and I've just clipped that I missed it off. We realised that it was this blob, and yeah, well, let me show you now. Okay, all things have two siphons. I was talking about one hole and comes out the other end. What you'll notice once you see a blob, it's just a blob, but the blob does some stuff every now and again. And actually, this is key to it. You noticing that it's looking like a human, it's in one, out the other. But it's really cool footage, so I'll show you. The blobs does stuff. Oh, God, I got too excited. So this is Siona, and this is a siphon, but it's a siphon of one. I don't think this is one individual, this is a couple. But you'll see that it's feeding, it's bringing in food and changing that pressure, and you can see the little bits of like plankton and all those different nutrients in the water that it's taking. And so although it is just a blob, you can kind of see that there is a bit more to it just from the outside before you even get to dissecting, because it's doing this kind of motion, which is very similar to us, I suppose, swallowing and processing water and everything. And I just find that really fascinating. So also, there's more to meets the eye than this species, but there's definitely more than meets to the eye, because even the little light bulb sea squirts have these too, and they all do it as well. Less obvious, but you can see there that they're contracting to kind of get the water in. Do you have some footage of one squirting? I do. I spent about an hour and a half today trying to find it. It turns out I have 2 terabytes of footage now that are very unorganized. So I'm sorry. It is on my channel, one of the videos. If I find it, I will tweet it out and let you know. Or next time I go rock pooling, I will get it and I will put it on my social medias. That last little bit, let me just take you back to that tiny little last bit. You can even see that the colonial sea squirt is doing it. You can see the little individual bits of it compressing. But I just wanted to show you that. I'm sorry that it was late. So we've got to this bit. Unassuming blob. We're now noticing things. We're wondering things. We're realizing that actually it comes in and out and all of these different things. But when we take it a step further, we realize that it is key to our own evolutionary history. It is massively key to working out what happened, how we evolved, and I think isn't that just amazing? It's also amazing because it's something you can do for free. It's something you can just put wellies on and go rock pooling. The price of a pair of wellies and a bus ticket to get you to the sea if you live close enough. And it's also a way, and I like to end a lot of things on this, is why we should be protecting all life. There's an argument sometimes of like, well, is it really that useful? You never know. There are so many videos on my channel of amazing things. Like limpets have one of the strongest materials in the entire world. Barnacles come up with glues that humans can't even do. Sea squirts, which are literally from the outside one of the weirdest looking blobbiest things I've ever seen, are key to our own evolutionary history. And so we should be, I think as humans, we should be protecting the ocean as always, all the time anyway. Just because we're here doesn't mean that we should negatively impact any creatures, but an argument for keeping it or actively making sure is that we don't know. There's so much we don't know, and if things like this have such amazing, just a bit of wondering, a bit of answer questions leads to here, then what else is out there that we don't know, that we can discover, that we can learn about? And there's so much room in science for other people and nature journals and people just to ask questions. It's people out in nature all the time, observing, not just taking things for granted, looking at why is that? I wonder why. that are able to come up with these discoveries. And it's so exciting to me, and that's so exciting kind of for me to share with you all. And I really hope that you found that interesting and useful. I'm going to answer some questions now. I'm going to chill here for a bit until the questions are answered. If anyone wants to see me make or dissect the thing, I have a video of that. I can talk you through how to make the, oh, thank you, Aoka. Your enthusiasm is infectious. I really haven't said that right. I'm very sorry for that. Yeah, if you want to see, let me know. I'll put it on. But yeah, thank you all. If anyone has any questions, pop them in and I will try and answer them. I'll scroll back and see if there's any. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I really, really do appreciate it that you're spending your time, especially over in the UK right now. Very nice weather. So thanks for taking this time. How interesting it has developed a reproduction. Yeah. Our sea squirts are so much larger than this. Wouldn't have recognised this one. Oh, interesting, Cindy. Yeah, the only ones I can say is the Siona ones, which can kind of get, I suppose, that big, which is a bit bigger. But you touch them and then like completely retract. They can retract more than 3/4 of their body and get like a lot smaller. So that's interesting. But yeah, I haven't really ever seen any massive sea squirts. They're kind of underrated over here. But I'd like to see. I wonder how big the biggest ones get. Someone, the googly eyes are giving creative ideas. I know, right? You can don't. I've got too many just things washing me all the time. There's such lovely comments. They don't have brains, I'm guessing, so this is an automatic response to food items. Yeah, I'm not particularly up to date on, knowing why or how things eat, but isn't that just, it's like an innate thing that happens, and that there's food and that they can sense that. I imagine it's something like that. I don't think they've got brains, but actually I think some sea squirts have like remnants of, like in the notochord thing, they have a cerebral vesicle, which I think maybe in someone stays. So it's not quite brain, but yeah, it's probably the closer to getting there than most species. Are sea squirts in all parts of the ocean? Yeah, so sea squirts are, most of the sea squirts, I think it's something like 90% are in the top 200 meters, but they're found around the world. So they don't do very well in deep oceans, probably because they're very squishy and depth tends to do a lot of weird things. You have to adapt quite well the further down you go, and squishy is fine down, but you have to adapt to that. So most of them are found in the top 200 layers, and also food is scarcer down in the deep. And so, but they are found around the world. So no matter where you are, I think you'll be able to find a sea squirt. What paper thickness do you recommend? Go for like a medium-y type of paper. You don't want too thin, too thick, and it starts to get difficult to work with. But saving like the thicker stuff for doing more 3D kind of things is really handy. But if you're putting it in a nature journal and you want to do this a lot, it gets too much. So save it for like, I don't know, something like if you were going to do a tree and you needed lots and lots of branches, but you needed that to be a bit thicker, use it for that. But like I'm terrible with names. I use it's a moleskin notebook journal, but it's the art one, their art paper. So whatever the thickness of that is the thickness I recommend. I also recommend that as a thing. I'm obsessed with moleskins. I've probably got like 20 of them, so I recommend that. Are sea squirts and sea cucumbers related? Sea cucumbers, I think, are echinoderms, which aren't far off on that tree. I've got it up here. Yeah, so echinoderms are in. Picks up. Echinoderms are actually like are here. So chordates. Oh god, I can't do this backwards. So chordates branch off here and go up, but echinoderms are here. So actually, they're pretty closely related, which is a good observation because sea squirts do some bizarre things too, don't they? Sea cucumbers, I mean. Do you know if there's any freshwater sea squirts? I live in the Great Lakes. I don't know, actually. I must apologise, I'm terrible with knowing freshwater things. So, fingers crossed there are. I don't know if there are. Potentially not. I haven't heard of any freshwater sea squirts, but does anything eat sea squirts? Oh, good question, because yes, they do. And actually today it was really funny. So I've been on a quest to find nudibranchs, which are sea slugs, and I've got amazing footage of loads of sea slugs now. They are in my video, my trailer, which I'll put up on my channel. These beautiful little sea slugs, and they're all delicate, but they eat sponges, and they also eat sea squirts, and they also eat hydroids. And I was looking for nudibranchs for years. It took me 2 years to find my first nudibranch, and I was looking through pictures I took of sea squirts today to put in this video, and no freshwater sea squirts. I'm sorry, Karina, but today, and I saw a nudibranch next to a picture of a sea squirt, and I was so excited to find the sea squirt that I didn't even notice it. I was thinking, no, I went so long without finding one, and actually they were right in front of me all the time. So yes, there are other things that eat sea squirts, like grazers and some sort of crabs and maybe fish. We pick at them and things like that. I mean, they're quite easy targets because they're just blobs, but also they're a bit of effort because you'd have to break them up first. How big are the colonial sea squirts? Cindy liked my nudibranch mating video. I did too, because it was awesome and it was so cool that I found it. How big are colonial sea squirts? It does depend. You can get sea squirts that go absolutely bananas. So in the UK at the moment, we have a problem with invasive sea squirt, and that literally never ending. It can grow over everything. Which is why it's been labelled as a problem, and it's a problem in a couple of parts of the world as well. So that can, it could take over a harbour, it could grow over anything. Like there's no limit to that. Worst case scenario, which hasn't really happened here yet, but could happen and happens like around other places, is that it grows over everything in the harbour. So it grows at the bottom of boats, buoys, everything, so it can get massive. The normal ones that you find if you're out rock pooling, anywhere from the size of a crisp to, at its biggest, size of a teacup saucer. That's a very British reference. I'm trying to think. It's probably bigger than a cup. Like this big. Like size of your face. I don't know. At the absolute biggest. I think I haven't really seen any bigger than that. Did you design the nudibranch t-shirt? No, I didn't. It's done by someone I follow on Twitter and got it as a present. Actually, they do great designs. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but have a Google and they are great. Yeah, but I do lots of art, so I should do t-shirts and stuff. Oh, great questions, everyone. That's really, really fabulous. Fabulous. Well, I'm gonna play that video with a bit of music of me doing the sea squirt dissection. If any burning questions pop in during that time, I will come back and answer them. But if not, I'll just pop back in at the end to say goodbye, and massive thank you to you all for tuning in and being such a great and interactive audience for this. This is so good. So I'm going to put that on now. Sorry again for forgetting it. Future reference. Okay, here we go. Hey, is that okay? Is that good? Thank you everyone for your absolute lovely comments. So guys, I just looked up what the smallest sea squirt is. They say a group of sea squirts called the doliolids, which is a great name, are less than 2 centimeters big, which is pretty cute, pretty big, pretty small. Oh, that's great. Also, I should just end before I say thank you. Well, say thank you to everyone. If anyone has any feedback for me, that would be fantastic. I've got something coming up where proving that what I've done for communication wise is useful to people. So if you could just drop a comment below and say feedback, and then let me know what you think, and actually give me feedback if you would like me to improve anything, then please let me know. That'd be really useful for me. But you don't have to, just being here was fantastic enough, but I thought I'd add that in. He has got a spine of light. Oh my god, that's so good. Wait, we need like 2 little arms. Like, it's like the other way around actually, like party arms. Oh, I can't do this backwards. Anyway, he does. He's so cool. He's like a lightsaber, a living lightsaber. Oh, brilliant. What a way to end it. I can't top that. Bob has stolen the show. Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you all so much. This has been fantastic. I hope to do more lives like this coming up in the future. So make sure to subscribe and share, and that would be really useful. And yeah, let me know. Tag me in anything you do that's been inspired by this, or just anything you do anyway. I love seeing people's artwork. Have a fantastic evening, everyone. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much for coming along. Oh, I'm terrible now. How else can I send you a comment? And if you're on Twitter or Instagram, I'll put my thing up now at Marine Mumbles. You can also reach me at marinemumbles@gmail.com is my email, which is all on my website too, so you can go and check them out. Oh, that looks so fancy. Whoever just arrived at the end of the course is no worries. I'm just about to end it. I don't have a newsletter, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll let you know if I ever get one. Whoever's just right, I'm just about to end it. However, it will be available for you to rewatch the entire thing, and I'll be in the comments below. So if you watch this and you have any questions, just drop them in the comments and I'll reply to them, typing and everything. So yeah, so I hope you enjoy. So that's it, everyone. Have a fantastic evening or morning, wherever you are in the world, and happy International Nature Journaling Week 2021. Thank you to all the people who organised it. Thank you to Bethan and Jules and that whole team. They're amazing and fantastic. So I will catch you all soon. Bye, everyone.